Hi, this is Chuck Oliver. Welcome to this week's Hidden Wealth Solution Review. Well, let me teach you what you still can do. Boomers and retirees, listen up. What you still can do to protect your wealth in 2022, but you've got to hurry. Now, many of you have reached out from all around the country and have said, look, I want to know what I can do to protect my money. I don't want to go to cash. Some of you said I'm too heavy in cash, or I'm obviously not going to survive there, even with these runaway interest rates with inflation. But at the same time, I don't want to keep taking a beating or a thrashing in the market, because you got different Federal Reserve chairs out there that are talking about the economy to weaken even further. The property values are going to drop because of interest rate levels, right, of 15 to 20%. And then you've got other Fed chairs saying that inflation, more rate hikes are going to be necessary, which means that's going to be more inflation. Well, you also had some reports out this week in this lame duck Congress that this president, with his controlled Senate, are going to push through so much spending that's going to drive so much higher interest rates that indirectly is going to force more inflation. And the only thing that can come from that to battle that is higher taxation, because when the government can either choose to spend more or tax more. Well, folks, at this point, they're going to have to do both. Now, listen, here's what you still can do, because many of you have said, Chuck, I want to take advantage of what I would argue with many of you to say this may be the lowest interest rate environment from a tax perspective, lowest tax environment, I should say, that we may see for the rest of our adult lives. And you don't want to kick yourself, like many of you saying, I'm so glad I took the time to learn. Right? I want you to imagine learning what you can still do to use deductions to offset taxes to free up money so you can insulate your income from the IRS. Many of you have reached out saying, look, there's some money because we're coming up on these required minimum distributions that I don't want to be exposing my kids or my grandkids to a big tax burden, because clearly that's going to explode with all the spending that's been done under this administration that may never be able to be made up for, folks. Understand, in the fiscal year under this administration, they've already spent, listen to this, $500 billion of just interest expense increase on our national debt. $500 billion. $500 billion. Now watch this. They came out with a report that for every 1% of higher interest rates, it will cost our debt service an additional $240 billion a year of just interest, increased interest. Folks, where do you think this money is going to come from? Higher inflation and higher taxation. So I want to teach you what you can do to get ahead of inflation by getting rid of taxation and protecting your money with no downside, only upside, and no tax. Folks, go to retirementprotected.com. That's retirementprotected.com. And let me teach you what you still can do to protect your wealth in 2022, especially taking advantage of taxes, tax elimination, income maximization, which means no tax and staying ahead of inflation, and lifestyle and legacy preservation. And many of you reached out and said, you know what? This is amazing. I didn't know you could have a Roth alternative. I didn't know you could create Roth conversion tax offsets. And you've got to get that done. Many of these deductions they're going to still be good after 22, but they're not going to be as strong as they are in 22. And many of you have reached out, and this is where the timing is of the essence on learning what you still can do to protect your wealth, cut your taxes still in 2022, folks. You work hard for your money. Let's get to work. Retirementprotected.com, retirementprotected.com.